And I have been watching and following you throughout the whole program. And I was delighted to find out that you are still maintain the same rhythm and eagerness to gain knowledge and to learn. As you all know that the global nowadays going through a pandemic, and this catastrophe and situation drives us to have lockdowns everywhere. And although despite of this lockdown, still volunteers can have the passion and the ultimate desire to continue their path in order to give and to give support to those who are in actual need. Today's topic is volunteering management in the international organization. And when we say volunteering management, it's also known as volunteering engagement. And it refers to the processes that the organization takes into consideration to work with and through the volunteers in order to achieve their goal. Definitely, when the organizations needs to be successful to manage their volunteers, they have proper system to take in place in order to leverage their strength and work together to achieve the goal of the overall goal of the organization. Our speaker today will have much time to elaborate more about these systems and processes. And let me now introduce our speaker for today's sessions. Our speaker for today is Turkish by origin, and she did major studies in Istanbul. She graduated from Istanbul University from the Department of International Relations and Political Science in 2015. She also graduated from University of 29 Mayas from Arabic Education Department in 2019. She has a diverse experience in the world of the volunteerism, where she settled at the end in the Turkish Red Crescent as a volunteer management specialist. She did many activities and contributed to the community through several activities with several local and international institutions. Before bringing her on board, I would request our participants to mute their microphones and to start take notes and write down their question until we open the floor for questions. Now, join me all to welcome our guest for today, Ms. Habanur Demir. Time and place are yours. Ms. Noor, can you hear
Hello,
me?
Suhair. Yeah, I can hear you. Thank you for introducing me. Hello, everyone. I don't want to waste our times. I want to start with summarize the structure of our presentation today and start as soon as possible. So our presentation today is starts with the basic process of volunteer management systems, and why do we need volunteers. And the second part of our presentation is based on IFRC responses for volunteer management with 3 different approaches. First one is strategy, especially including youth volunteering, and the second one is a module. And the third one is a humanitarian standard system. So this is how we're going to start and how we're going to go with the presentation today. Sorry if it's very detailed. I didn't want to do this, but inshallah, I will make it easier for everyone. Yes, there will be a screen share just in a minute, inshallah. I'm going to try to make it easier as much as I can, inshallah. So I will just start with my presentation. I think it's okay now. So yeah. As I mentioned before, today we're going to talk about volunteer management in international organizations. I prefer to talk about IFRC at the moment because, as Ms. Suhay mentioned, I'm currently working at Turkish Red Crescent, and I thought that I can give you more information about volunteer systems in our societies, national societies. So let's start with the basic process of the volunteer management system, which is accepted and currently running by several organizations. First question here is, why are we talking this right now? Why do we need volunteers? Why do we need to volunteer involvement in our organizations, in our national societies? So let's answer this question first. I'm going to make it a group by two. We need volunteers because volunteers mirror the diversity of society. And also volunteers are engaged in a diverse range of activities. This is important because our job is with communities, and we have to get correct interactions from our communities. And volunteers make it easier for us here in this case. And volunteering is one of the ways in which people of all abilities and backgrounds can contribute to positive change. And also volunteering means of social inclusion and integration. This is also vital because social integration is one of the points of IFRC's 2020 strategy. Then I'll talk more about the strategy, but for now, this is a very this is a very vital point for IFRC volunteer management system. So the other reason that we need volunteer is volunteering plays an important role in finding solutions to societal issues, and volunteers also have to improve the quantity and quality of services and to creatively develop new services. I think these are clear enough. And volunteering is a significant economic factor and can help create of innovative partnership between businesses and the volunteer sector organizations. Volunteers actually help us to promote our societies by getting away from tiring procedures and the process. So we can say that volunteers have a key role for getting involved with other sectors and other organizations from our professionals' view. Then volunteering extend social networks, which can often lead to new or better employment opportunities, as well as personal and social development. And also provides non-formal learning opportunities, especially for young people. Well, I care about this much because I've just graduated from international relations and political science, and if here is anyone IR students, they probably know that IR students have non-stop reading list. We read and read and read again, and there is also forever and beyond literature searches and reviews. So I of course did all of the stuffs, but when I get into the field with several organizations as a volunteer, I've learned many things that I've never ever heard of at a university. So in this case, being volunteer, especially in the field, actively in the field, is very important for everyone who wants to learn and improve themselves, especially for the youth. So, and the last reason that we need volunteers is volunteering makes people happy. This is certain because from a professional view, I can say that volunteers can help us to reach our communities in a very easy way, and they also make our involvement into our communities easier. So they are like our smile faces in our communities, in our countries. So this is a basic structure of the volunteer management process. Sorry. Yes. This process has is divided into 3 steps, and it also has some subtitles inside of it. Let's just start with it. First of all, when we're managing the volunteers, we start with needs assessments and program planning. This is vital for the beginning. Then we have job development and design, and I'm going to talk about more about job designing because it's very important to have good and correct feedbacks from our volunteers. And when we're doing this, we need a volunteer manager if organization have it, and they must have it because volunteer managers can deal with all the problems at the field that our volunteers can face with. So it's very important to have a volunteer manager in the process of volunteer management. Also, paid staff and members involvement. Our first step of management process, we need these people. And the second step starts with requirements, interviewing and matching by the skills of volunteers and with other details, of course. And we go on with orientation and training. I'm going to talk about this orientation and training parts later, inshallah, for coming slides, inshallah. And the supervision and monitoring, then evaluation and recognition. Here, while we are doing this, we also need volunteer manager and management support from our national societies. Then the third and the last step is evaluation. Now we need volunteer manager plus paid staff and members involvement, and also community involvement here in the last step of the volunteer management process. Yes, as I mentioned before, job description is important while we're planning the volunteer management. It's because that there are basic needs that we have to care about while we're planning the job description. What are these needs? First of the needs is volunteers' needs, and the second is communities' needs, and the third is organizations' needs. When these 3 come together, that makes the best job description for us. Well, it's important to find the volunteers' work because that it suits organizational our goals, and it's also meaningful to the volunteers, and this also answer to the needs of the community. These are actually our basic goals. So this is important because I'm going to go with 2 sides. One of volunteer management might seem like an organization or professional's job, but volunteers are the other side of this management, and this management goes with volunteers. So at the beginning, actually, volunteers have to know their rights and responsibilities before going to the field. So what is a volunteer's rights? We are, as volunteers, we should know how we are chosen. That also brings us the transparency of organizations, and this is very important for everyone who's currently working at humanitarian aid and NGOs. The other right of us is to be prepared, trained if needed, and most of the time, yes, it's needed because orientation is the major part of understanding the job description. And the third thing is have someone to talk about to work, like a volunteer manager that we mentioned before. And we also have to know, we should know that what is expected from us and whom we are responsible to. That also refers to the volunteer manager, actually. We are, as volunteers, have to know, have to be informed and ask questions when we need it. And we, of course, and definitely, we have to get answers to do our jobs, to do our volunteering job at the field in a right and correct way. Then we have to be insured and have a safe working environment and have suitable equipment. This is also important because now everyone knows that we are being through a pandemic, and this pandemic shows us while we're organizing the volunteer management status, we have to care about the crisis situations more and more. Now, for example, our volunteers cannot go out without their PPEs, personal protection equipment, because this is a very dangerous situation that we are getting through. Inshallah, we're going to get through this as soon as possible. And volunteers deserve to be respected and not to be misused. And this is a right also. Volunteers has to know, must know, should know their rights. That you can ask as a volunteer about your rights at the beginning, at the orientation part, and you also get very clear answers about your rights. So you can demand this from your society organizations. And what is the volunteers' responsibilities? Volunteers should be open-minded and act responsibly in the task they perform and respect to others and their rights. They also have to respect working standards of the organization, its aims and values, and ask for support if needed. This is actually very important because sometimes in the field, especially in the crisis area, we would like to prevent unsolicited status. And for preventing this, this is important to ask volunteers that support at the beginning, after this, and just before the unsolicited status happened. So yeah, I care about this much. Volunteers also should act tolerantly because even now we are professional, cannot say what's going to happen in the field just after 5 minutes. We just can't say this. Yes, we are trying to prepare ourselves for every condition, but we just can't say the exact things that are going to happen. So we kindly ask our volunteers to act tolerantly, and we also ask to our volunteers give feedbacks. Yes, we are promoting and we are planning lots of strategies and modules and lots of things, but feedbacks are the most important things for us to improve ourselves and develop new strategies for our communities and for also our volunteers. And volunteers have to enjoy themselves because volunteers are here at the field or at the other places by free will. So they're also demanding, they're also giving us their times. So they have to enjoy themselves, and they have to know, they have to care about themselves in various ways. And as I mentioned, as a right, this matter, I'm also mentioning this as a responsibility too. Volunteers should know, must know their rights. Well, I think these are the basic rights and responsibilities of volunteers. Now I'm going back to professional side, and I'm going to talk about organizations' rights and responsibilities at volunteer management procedure. First of all, uh, organization has to set an agreement between the organization and the volunteers. This is a right, okay, but this is also a protection for volunteers and volunteers' rights. So this is an important detail for us. And the second right of organization is ask for the tasks to be done in a specific way. For this, we have to explain our job to our volunteers in a very clear way. And we, as organizations, we have to set up the standards for the work. We should ask for, we can ask for specific qualities and skills in the volunteers for the best matching at the field. Then we ask for the commitment, reliability, and punctuality. Punctuality is very important because, as I mentioned, for 5 minutes, we cannot know that what's going to happen at the field. So this is why we are trying to be punctual as much as we can, because the field has many surprises for us. So if we set a plan for a volunteer management, we have to know that our volunteers will be there at the time. Another important point here. And we also have a right to solve the issues of discipline or complaints. This is also benefits for the other volunteers. And we also allow the volunteers to quit if they are not satisfied with the work. We actually don't want this at the field while we're doing this, but I think this happened because we cannot explain our job description to our volunteers in the best way. So we are also checking ourselves in this case too. So these were the rights of organizations, and there are also responsibilities for organization. So what are these responsibilities? It's like offer challenging opportunities for all volunteers. That also brings us to transparency of organization again. Then we have to find clear and sensible roles for this by using the job descriptions. Job descriptions are important. We have to set up rules and procedures that will allow useful involvement of the volunteers, and we give all needed information to volunteers. We also have to give safe and comfortable working environment, physically and emotionally, and we have to I think I skipped to write this down here, but we have to provide them, if needed, physical and emotional support right after the field work, especially at the crisis area. And we also have to appreciate and respect all volunteers. Thank you is the key word for appreciating to our volunteers. I know it's a short word, but that really means so much for volunteers and for us too. And last one is we have to provide volunteers with orientation into the work or job, training, and opportunity for development of the volunteers. Yes, it's organizations and the volunteers. Yes. Now, now we are getting to volunteer management. Okay. So IFRC has many various responses to volunteer management, but I would like to share with you the three major responses. One of these are the first one is a strategy, including youth engagement, and the second one is a module that aims to behavioral change by youth, and the third one is a humanitarian standards is also accepted by the other organizations in the world, but it's based on the IFRC's and national societies agreement. So I'm gonna talk about these three. These youth and volunteer management responses. IFRC's youth strategy based on four, how can I say, 4 points, like sharing, acting, empowering, and inspiring. So why we are aiming this is because that we have a strategy as youth engagement. So IFRC has a volunteering alliances, and this alliance is a key role. It has a key role at volunteer management systems. You can see here our IFRC's 7 fundamental principles: independence, impartiality, neutrality, universality, voluntary service, unity, and humanity. These are the 7 fundamental principles of IFRCs. And you can see the members of the volunteering alliances. I think all of the countries that you were contributing here exist, I guess. So, what is IFRC's youth policy and how does it work? The IFRC policy and the IFRC's youth engagement strategy for it starts with the IFRC's youth policy and goes with the IFRC's youth engagement strategy. Then there is a national society-owned youth policy and youth engagement strategy based on their local structure, local needs, and the other details. They frame a new youth policy, a unique youth policy in their national societies. So why IFRC has a youth strategy such as this? It's because that youth engagement is intrinsic to building strong national societies. It's also the aim of IFRC's strategies. Our CRC volunteerism as central to youth engagement and as an effective and meaningful way of youth civic engagement. And also, volunteerism has education, empowerment, and enabling environments for young people as vital for youth engagement. Youth as agents of change addressing global humanitarian challenges pertinent to local communities. And youth are in decision-making at all levels of management, governance, and service delivery as necessary for intergenerational transfer of experiences and continuity. So what is the base on IFRC's youth engagement strategy, and what are the building blocks? You can see here that IFRC's youth strategy, this is stronger youth for stronger national societies. So IFRC strategy has divided youth as 3 different points. First of all, youth as leaders. We are describing youth as in 3 different ways, and the first one is youth as leaders, and the second one is youth as volunteers, and the third one is youth as beneficiaries. So this is how we are describing youth as our in our strategy and in our literature. And the strategic directions and recommended actions for this: youth education, youth empowerment, and creation of enabling environments. So what is the youth and young people for IFRC? The terms youth and young people in the IFRC cover people in the age range of 5 to 30 years. Well, this range is a reasonable guide for national societies who may adapt according to local laws, social norms, and cultural contexts. And when we are describing youth as leaders in our CRC, youth can take a lead in their capacity as volunteers, members, and staff. However, our CRC youth leadership is not exclusively about the title and position. It also entails and refers to specific abilities or unique qualities of young people to inspire and influence positive change in others by their own action. This is why we are describing youth as leaders. And the third description of us is youth as volunteers. In our CRC, young volunteers engage in planning, designing, delivery, and review of programs and services. Standard volunteering policies, schemes, and approaches of our CRC are applicable to young volunteers unless additional specific needs have been identified by their local national societies and local standards of their community. And now we are here with the second approaches of IFRC's responses, which is YABC, youth as agents of behavioral change. The 7 fundamental principles of Red Cross and Red Crescent movement has combined all of these strategies. Actually, what are the 7 fundamental principles? I know that we mentioned before, but I want to mention this for the second time: humanity, impartiality, neutrality, independence, voluntary service, and unity. So we also have here YABC ethical leadership and role modeling skills. So when we were describing, I hear some voices, but is there any problem with the slide or screen sharing?
No, it's going on.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Zahir. YABC has ethical leadership and role modeling skills. We're demanding some role modeling skills from our volunteers, especially from volunteers. What are these role modeling skills? That starts with empathy. Empathy is the first rule of being at the field with an organization, especially with our national societies like the Red Crescent and Red Crosses. And we're also demanding active listening from our youth, our young volunteers. Then critical thinking comes, then dropping bias and non-judgment, non-violent communication, negotiation, mediation, operating from inner peace, stress management, which could be very hard at the crisis situation, but we also have standards for this. I'm going to come to there. Then enhancing resilience. These are the skills that we are expecting from our volunteers as ethical leaders in our societies. We also have YABC values, which are also contributing to our fundamental principles of Red Cross and Red Crescent movement. Our values are peace, human dignity, respect for diversity, equality, non-violence, inclusiveness, compassion, care, friendship, mutual understanding, teamwork and cooperation, responsibility, and lastly, humility. Well, actually, YIBC is the IFRC's flagship initiative on the promotion of culture of nonviolence and peace at many different countries. And YIBC empowers youth to take up on an ethical leadership role in inspiring positive transformation of themselves and for their communities, of course. Now I listed some examples of YIBC project and grassroots outreach. You can. I know that there are countries that participating today, I guess, and you can go and ask for these projects, the situation of these projects in your national societies. I can suggest you that. So. What are our projects of YIBC? In Sierra Leone, Sustainable Development and Vocational Training for Vulnerable Youth Project. In Algeria, Libya, Morocco, and Tunisia, regional campaign and micro project on migration issues. In Egypt and Tunisia, we have service delivery during civil unrests. In Pakistan and Sri Lanka, there is a YIBC project including psychosocial support. And in Ghana, France, Lebanon, Macedonia, and Switzerland, junior and youth clubs and centers in schools, colleges, universities, and communities. In Denmark and Philippines, we have projects based on leadership courses. In Egypt again and Pakistan again, we have disaster management projects. In Egypt again, in Pakistan again, and France again, we have first aid projects. And in Colombia and Papua New Guinea, we have awareness raising on HIV and AIDS. So you can see that there's lots of projects based on the local problems of the country. So well, I hear some voices.
I would request again from the participants, all participants, to mute their microphones, please.
Thank you. Okay. So yes, these were the YIBC projects examples. As I told you, I think you should promote. You should go and participate yourself to your national societies and keep following these projects. Now you know many things about volunteer management, so you can be the part of these projects running in your national society. So the third approach of IFRC is responding to volunteer management in international organization is Sphere project and Sphere standards. Sphere standards is not actually for just volunteers, it's also for the professionals that working at NGOs, especially at NGOs and national societies working at disaster areas and the crisis areas. So what is Sphere Standards? Sphere Standards created in 1997 by a group of NGOs and Red Cross, Red Crescent movements. This standards, this project aiming to improve quality of humanitarian responses in crisis and to be accountable for their societies and for the world. So what is a sphere? When we're asking what is a sphere, they can say sphere combined with principles and foundations. Starts with humanitarian charter, protection principles, and core humanitarian standards, and goes with water supply, sanitation, and hygiene promotion. It goes with food security, nutrition, shelter and settlement, and health. You can see and you can understand that this is this standards for especially for the crisis area. And when we are going to crisis area with our volunteers, we are giving them to severe standards handbook to read and apply on the field. We also have the code of conduct. These are the principles. These are the 10 core principles that made by International Red Cross and Red Crescent movement and NGOs, as NGOs are taking role in disaster and responding to these programs. So what is these 10 core principles? First one is the humanitarian imperative comes first. This is our first principle. Then the second one is aid is given regardless of the race, creed, or nationality of the recipients and without adverse distinction of any kind. Aid priorities are calculated on the basis of need alone. And the third one is aid will not be used to further a particular political or religious and we shall endeavor not to act as instruments of government foreign policy. We shall respect culture and custom. We also shall attempt to build disaster response on local capacities. Ways shall be found to involve program beneficiaries in the management of relief aid, and the relief aid must strive to reduce future vulnerabilities to disaster as well as meeting basic needs. And we hold ourselves accountable to both those we seek to assist and those from whom we accept resources. And the last principle is in our information, publicity, and advertising activities, we shall recognize disaster victims as dignified human beings, not hopeless objects. Well, actually, I'd like to summarize some of the basic standards for various NGOs that are accepted by various NGOs and IFRC movement. But I also wanted to summarize IFRC's responses on youth engagement strategy and youth volunteer management systems. As I told, there are various strategies of IFRCs. If I can gather them, inshallah, I would like to share all of these documents and maybe handbooks with you, and I will also share the severe handbook with you. I can suggest you to read all of these because this volunteer management system is not based on one thing. That really brings many different things to involve volunteers in our systems. Oh, I think that's all I can say. That's all I can present for now. I think I guess there will be a question and answer part. So if it's okay for you, then we can next jump into the question and answers part.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Hava, for this considerable and noteworthy presentation. I believe that our participants come to know closely how the organization managed to manage their volunteers. Let me summarize very quickly the presentation or the notes that you have presented to the participants. You talk about why volunteering matters and why do we need volunteering in life. And you explain the volunteer management processes that the organization undertakes, starting from day one, then when the volunteer joined the organization, from the process of orientation, going through training until the end of their evaluation of performance. Then you clarify the differences between the rights and responsibilities from both sides, from the both side of the volunteers and the side of the organization. Then you explained the IFRC approaches, 3 approaches, and you talked about them in details. And you mentioned also the 7 fundamental principles of the IFRC that applied in their strategies to fulfill their missions. Thank you so much, Ms. Hava. Noor. And now I will open the floor to our participant to ask. So participants, if you have any question to our speaker, you can raise your hand so I can give you the chance to ask.
Okay.
Okay. They're still writing their questions. Okay, Ms. Haba, while they are preparing their questions, let me ask a question.
Yes.
What are the essential strategies that on the organization, let's say international, since you are working in international organization, take into consideration to manage the volunteers very closely? You say that one of their assets, the organization asset is to be the volunteer. How do this organization closely manage to apply these strategies to retain these volunteers?
Well, actually, this is a process here because you know that there are many details of volunteer management, but the structure that we framed today at the beginning of the presentation is the best way and the most using way to national societies, national organizations that I've been in. They were using these. Many of them succeeded, but yeah. So they're trying to apply all of these procedures, but it's not easy to manage volunteers at the field. So if I talk about the volunteer project that I've been, I can say that they were trying to run these processes and these procedures on itself.
Okay, there is a question from Omnia from Morocco. She is asking, how can we have a deep insight about the YAPC projects?
Well, you can check the website of IFRC, and I highly recommend this for you because there are lots of websites, sub websites that you can find more detailed information about this. But I will also gather all documents that I've used, and I would like to suggest you. I will gather all of these, inshallah, as soon as possible. Then I will send it to Marve or you or whatever you want to, whoever you want to. Then you can share with our participants, inshallah.
Okay, we have another question. When a volunteer joins any organization, this volunteer has an expectation in his mind in order to achieve his, to work closely with the organization. What is the role of the organization to make it close between the organization and the volunteers? So they have they stand in the middle together and work together.
Yes. Well, this is a good question, actually, because that really matters at the field to know what volunteer expect from us and what do we expect from our volunteers. So as I talked about as I talked in presentation, job description is vital for satisfying our volunteers at the field, because when we are giving them a clear and specific job description, and before giving the job description, when we care about the volunteers' needs, we will succeed the best job description for our volunteers, and that will bring us to have a successful volunteer management at the field.
Okay. Okay, another question. What are the tools that the organization involve to track the development of the volunteers' performance? in order to make sure that the volunteers are doing good job?
Well, actually, there is no specific criteria for this. I mean, of course, there are some standards, but every national society has their own standards for volunteer because they also have their unique expectations from their volunteers. So the right and the healthy way, I guess, is being open to your volunteer organization and explain yourself as much as you can and listen them actively and understand what they expect from you, and they will probably give you the clue about their tools. I mean, an active and effective communication will help us. There are no standards. Every organization has their tools, their own tools.
Okay, thank you. We have another question from Baba Banda from Senegal. What are the criteria to be a WABC volunteer, and what are your social media on IYBC?
YIBC is a module that created by IFRC movement. So this is not a strategy. This is a module that we are using to reach our strategy and our goals for 2020. And I will send you kind of flip book or a handbook of YIBC. If you can check this, I think you will get more detailed answers from this handbook.
Okay, thank you. We have another question from Tasugi Dungipak. Well, I hope that I pronounce his name correctly. Okay, you can go on. Mr. Tasugi, do you hear me?
Hello?
Okay.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you. We can ask you the question.
Okay, Sage Donfawili. Thank you very much. Thank you for the wonderful presentation, and I'm really delighted following you. It was really great. It was insightful and really instructive. So my question I have is that you have talked about the rights of volunteers. I wish to know what a volunteer can do if his right is not respected in an organization. What do you propose to a volunteer to do? Because you have been confronted to such instances, and most of the time you don't really know who you can turn to. So as our leader on board, our speaker, I think you have a good experience that you can widen us in this regard. Please give us an advice in this sense.
Did you get the question, Ms. Hava?
Well, there are so many voices I couldn't get clearly, actually.
So
Can
I'm
you
saying
repeat
that, okay, I'm saying that thank you first of all for your presentation. Now we are in Cameroon, for instance. There are many associations we worked with, but the rights that you have described on board are not actually respected. What can we do? What can we do in such a situation? Should we go towards the police, or actually what should we do in such a situation? What should be done if your right as a volunteer is not respected? What do you propose we should do?
Did you get the question, or shall I?
Well, I think that will be better if you write down the question, because I want to respond it very clear.
He asked you about. I will read the question again. He asked about, he is from Cameroon, I guess. He said,
Yes.
what if he, as a volunteer, his right is abused? What is your advice to do? What to do? Shall he go to the police, or you have another advice to give to him?
Oh, tough question. Okay. First of all, you have to know your rights just before start to your volunteer job. So if they explain you your job, your rights before before you start your job and at the orientation part, of course. And if they not keep their promises about your rights, and if they violated your rights, you can of course go to police. And if there's another law structure in your country, you can ask to run this. But unfortunately, I have no specific knowledge about the local laws of your community. But I can suggest you to research this, and if you can, get notes and publish on your social media accounts and try to reach many people. If you get your answers in the local and structural way, and reach other volunteers, I'm sure that there will be lots of people that they don't know about their rights and what they have to, what they should do if someone violates or blocks their rights. I think this is a good opportunity for you to research this, your local laws, and be volunteer about sharing this to your community.
We have another question from Ms. Rabia Elias from Pakistan. The floor is yours, Ms. Rabia.
Thank you. First of all, I'd like to thank Ms. Anur for the wonderful presentation. My question is, you mentioned that we can ask for YABC projects in our region. So what kind of projects are included in this module of YABC? Are they just humanitarian? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, are the projects should be humanitarian aid projects, or other areas are also included?
No, they just. I just gave you some examples, but I'm sure that there will be another YABC projects, or you can engage, you can involve with your national society, and you can start a project, and you can write a project, and you can be the owner of project. It's not just has to be in humanitarian aid. You know that IFRC and national societies dealing with many different and many various ways of society issues. So humanitarian is one of them. But we are also having support on psychological ways or cultural ways. You can get in touch with your national society to get more detailed information, Rabia.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. And now we have a question from one of our active participants, Mr. Karim Kapari from Egypt. The floor is yours.
Merhaba, Ms. Noor.
Merhaba, Karim.
I would like to mention, when we talk about the volunteers' right,
Yes.
most of the organization just thinking about providing the volunteer with the training, the professional development, the safety equipment, and all these things, and they don't care about the post projects. Like there is no projects or there is no activities for recovery, or there is no activities for leisure for the volunteers. Some of them do that and have been participating in some of those activities, but the most is caring more about the development that related to the skills that needed to accomplish the mission, and not caring about the recovery process. And some of the volunteers, when they say, okay, I'm overwhelmed and I need to take a break, it's understood that they don't want to participate, and some organization disqualifies them because they don't want to participate and they don't understand that they need a break. And at the same time, they don't provide them with the break or the recovery activities.
Yes. Another tough question. Okay. Well, as I mentioned, volunteers have rights and responsibilities, and organizations also have rights and responsibilities. One of the responsibilities of organization is allow to volunteers to quit their job or take a break from their volunteer job and get their motivations back, because we know that we're all humans here and we can lose our motivations, especially for now. You know, we've been through a pandemic crisis, and we can't just send our volunteers into the field every day, because it's a very dangerous situation, and sometimes they face with very different things. They have living with the risk of getting infected. So there are many different types of dangers and motivation loss factors at the field. So we have to understand volunteers at first. So yes, I think, yeah, I feel very guilty about this, but I can say that we as organizations have to improve ourselves at communication with our volunteers, and we have to understand them. We have to choose the best ways to reach them so they can give us the right feedbacks, and we can promote this procedure as a best way.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, let me take a question from the question chat box. There is a question from Misilana Fomo from Cameroon. He is asking, as a Cameroonian, how can I contribute to the organization, given that Cameroon is neither a member nor they are not involved in activities done in our country?
I don't know if, but I think there will be a national society to Red Cross or Red Crescent in Cameroon. So I can suggest you, as a Turkish Red Crescent member, professional, I can suggest you to join your national society first, and prefer your national society first, and being aware of these IFRC policies, and apply the procedures that we talk about in your national society, and try to contribute more as a volunteer to your national society to improve it, to develop it.
Okay, now we have Ahmed Sobhi from Egypt. He raised his hand for a question. The floor is yours.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much, Ms. Noor, for your presentation. My question is that how can you track and monitor your management plan or strategy in the field of action after execution?
I'm sorry, I lost your voice, Ahmed. Can I get the question again?
Yeah. How do you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
How can you track and monitor your management plan and strategy after execution?
Well, Ahmed, as I present at the first of a volunteer management system, this is a basic management system. We are trying to apply. We're trying to run as much as we can in the field. So this is our basic procedure to manage our volunteers. So we are now in the management part, trying to apply as much as we can. So I think I would prefer to put our strategy, as I told you, divided into 3 parts. I would start with this and try to apply as much as I can.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
We have Ahmed al-Sheikh from Sudan. You can go and ask your question.
All right, thank you. So my question is, if an international organization has some volunteers who are working remotely, so how could this organization maintain its volunteers engaged and connected with its mission and visions?
Thank you, Ahmed. Yes, yes, I can hear. Thank you. Well, this question also refers to open and effective communication with your national society and organization. Uh, Under these circumstances, you have to ask and demand to your society or community organization that your needs, your skills, and demand for what do you need actually, and try to reach a better communication with your national society. I mean, this is all matters of communication. I can't say that this is the way for doing this because I don't know. There are many different types of circumstances over there, probably even in our country, even in various countries. There are some local points, some local standards, some local problems or procedures that we cannot know about it. So the best way for getting with this problem, the situation, is having an effective community and writing mails, going talk with them, and the other communication promote acts, I guess.
Okay, Miss Hava, I have been seeing in the chat box, same question is repeated, and these questions are coming from volunteers who are from these countries that the IFRC is applying some approaches there. They are asking how can they reach or get in touch with these, who is the representative, or how can they get in touch with these organization or branches of the organization? Is there, for example, an account, social media? I don't know. How can they reach them?
Well, I guess, I mean, I suppose there must be websites or Twitter accounts or social media accounts for every national societies for us, but you can search for them. There must be writing their addresses or their contacts, or you can use some magic of internet and ask for Yahoo or Google or Yandex to find the closest and nearest national society to your house and go and touch with them, because sometimes we can't just we can just get response to our mails, or we can just get the clear responses to our questions. The best way, if you can, not now of course, but after this pandemic, you can go for your national society around you. You can check with them on their social media accounts and get in touch with them. Social media accounts is very important. If they don't have a website, I am sure that they have the social media account, Twitter, YouTube, or I don't know, Facebook maybe.
Okay, I guess since this question has been repeated too many, I guess they understand that you have regional offices in these countries. That's why they are asking these questions. This is my understanding. Okay, we have another question from Mama Samba from Senegal. The floor is yours. You can ask your question.
Thank you so much for the presentation. This was amazing. My question is, what are the conventions that guarantee safety and well-being to the volunteer? Yes, thank you.
Thank you. I think you're asking to keep safe our volunteers. Did I get right?
No, your connection seems to be went out for a while. Could you repeat again?
I think the question was that how do we keep our volunteers safe and protect them? Did I get right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. First of all, we have to provide to our volunteers a safe and good environment at the field. And before this, we have to explain them to what are they going to face at the field when we reach out there, and what kind of things that they must be aware of, they must be careful of. Then when we reach to field, we also repeat this. Then we make sure that we gave the protection equipments to all of volunteers if needed, and keep our eyes on our volunteers all the time. This is a job for a volunteer manager at the field, and there must be a volunteer manager when we are working with volunteers at the field. So this is how we are trying to keep our volunteers safe, especially at the crisis area, because it's that must be really challenging sometimes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Miss Nasra Abdullah from Somalia. The floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you for your presentation. This is really one of the most interesting sessions we had. My question is, when it comes managing volunteers, whether the area they are working or the type of work they are doing, what is the most challenging part you mostly face in order to know our weakness and correct it? Thank you.
Thank you, Nasra. Well, if you were talking about this, if you were having this presentation before the pandemic, I would say that matching volunteers by their skills, because there are many talented volunteers outside, and this is very challenging sometimes to matching them to right positions and understand them very correctly. But now here in this pandemic COVID-19 process, I can say that the most hardest thing that I've ever faced while doing volunteer management is keeping our volunteers safe, because they are doing this by free will. They do not have to be outside of their houses, but they are sometimes they are working more than professionals. So I feel kind of responsible about them, and this is very challenging for me, because when we are setting a volunteer job at this pandemic crisis, we actually being nervous about being I don't know, being sensitive about our volunteers, because I know that we all know that there is a huge chance of getting infected when they're at outside. So yes, for now, this is the most challenging thing that I've ever met, I guess.
Thank you so much.
Okay, there is a question from Brahim Abi Samail. He asked, in order to start any project, you need to assess the needs of the society. How do you gather data about the society to find out the real needs as an emerging organization?
Well, that really depends on the organization and the national society. So I'm gonna suggest the same thing again. First of all, we have to understand what our community, what our national society expect from us. And if there is a missing, if there is a gaps, we have to be volunteer about to fill them. And we have to go and get interact with them to understand what we can do together, what we can run together while doing projects. And before the project procedure, we can the view of volunteer, from the view of a volunteer, we have to be beware of the needs of our community and our national society, our organizations, and plan our steps to this, I guess.
There is a question, but it is a little bit different from other question. It is internal question that she asked or he asked, how do you manage when there is some conflict between volunteering in your team, since you are managing a team of volunteers?
Oh, challenging. Okay. Well, I would like to be honest with this because there is no benefit to lie about this. We face this millions and millions time when we are setting a volunteer job at the field with our volunteers, and this is not a shame. This is not something wrong. When we are working with human beings, this is so normal to have and face with this kind of struggles, this kind of problems. Well, if there is no discipline, or if there is no wrong act in our volunteer teams, we will try to negotiate the different parts together, and we have to understand them. We have to understand the problem deeply, and if there is the chance to negotiate, we will get through for this. And if there is no negotiate, and if there is a way back, it's a long way of negotiation or the peace, we have to separate our teams invisibly and set different parts of teams, and they will not interact with each other anymore. So this is a tip from field, and that must be the off record. But yes, you ask and I answered.
Okay, I guess we came close to the end of the session. Once again, Ms. Hava, thank you so much for joining us and for the supportive and informative information that you give to our participants. If you have a final word or advice to the volunteers while they're doing their volunteering job, or for those who are not involved in these countries that you have mentioned. So I will give you the floor for the last word before we end the session.
Thank you, Suhair, for your nice words. When I was volunteer, I really didn't like to hear many advices, actually, because you were also volunteer at the field, so I thought that I don't need advices. So this is why I do not prefer to giving advice, but I can just suggest that being volunteer is best role that you can get for your society. If you care about your society, if you care about your community that you are living in, then you have to find a way to getting involved to your society in a volunteer way. So I'm sure that there will be a good part. I mean, there will be a matching part of volunteerism, because volunteerism is an endless sea. So you can find more about volunteer opportunities in your area and get chance to yourself and to your community. And lastly, I can say that you please take care of yourself, take care of your family during this COVID-19 process. I think we're going to get through this as much as we can get through. Be careful about you and your family. Thank you for joining here. Before just 1 year. 1 year ago, I was a volunteer. I was a college student, and I used to talk with ICYF presentators like Mrs. Tuba. So this is an honor to be here for me here today, because ICYF has a huge potential. So as you participants, you're getting chance to be here. So do not waste this, and try to transform that what you need here, what you learn here, to your community, because you will be the leaders. You can be the leaders of your community as in many kind of ways, especially at the volunteer leadership is very important for you. Yes, I think I just gave some advices, but just do not take this as advices. It's just a suggestions. Be careful yourself. Be careful about your family, and thank you again for your participation.
Thank you, Musaba. Thank you, participants, for your listening and contribution and activity for this session. And wish you all the best in the remaining 2 days. Inshallah, you are coming close to the end. Plus, please don't forget to follow our website and social media, because we are having other ongoing programs and future programs. So stay with us and stay home and be safe. Thank you so much, and see you later.